Do you think one mind is better than many? Neither do we. A University of Chicago Booth School of Business MBA is for curious and collaborative people who value different perspectives and ideas. Chicago Booth takes pride in empowering and being empowered by women of diverse backgrounds. We believe that fostering an inclusive community creates an environment of analytical, open minded inquiry and produces knowledge with enduring impact. Learn more today at chicagobooth.edu/elevate. Welcome to the Ellevate podcast, conversations with women changing the face of business. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Ellevate podcast. I am your host, Megan Oliver, and I am so excited to be with you this week. So first, right off the bat, I want to let you know this is the last week for squad applications. Ellevate squads are just incredible. You get matched with 6 to 8 other incredible women in business who can help you work through whatever you need to work through at work right now. I've mentioned in the past on the podcast that my first squad, I really dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome that I was feeling, and they really helped me through that. And in my second squad, they helped me get a raise, which was fabulous, and I did get the raise. And I'm actually signed up for this round of squads again. I'm not sure what my focus is going to be. I kind of have to do like a little thought exercise to figure out what my focus is going to be. But if you apply, who knows? You might be in my squad. Be pretty cool. So this is the last week to apply for this cycle. I believe they close on Friday, so definitely be sure to get yours in. They are just such an incredible experience. And if you are a member, it's already part of your plan. All you have to do is put in your information. Like, that's literally it. Just put in what days and times work best for you. Moving on to what else is happening at Ellevate this week. We have our Ellevate Roundtable coming up, which we're going to be talking about how managing up can help everyone succeed. That's going to be on Thursday. Such a great topic. Our executive roundtable is going to be meeting. They're having a virtual networking elevated. That's next Tuesday. We haven't had an executive roundtable in a bit just because I think things have been so crazy with Mobilize Women, but that is back and it'll be really fun. Our community circles this week. Next Tuesday is our Hispanic, Latina, and Latinx community circle. So if you identify as a member of that community, please be sure to come on by. Such a fabulous group. Just, so great. And in-person events. Special shout out to Ellevate Cincinnati, our amazing Cincinnati chapter, who have 2 in-person events coming up this week. They have their happy hour networking this Wednesday, which is today, if you're listening the day this came out, and their Ellevate Business Connect, Coffee Connect, and Networking on Friday. Both of those are in person, both in Cincinnati. So if you're in that area, you should definitely check them out. Our Central New Jersey chapter is having their event Impressions, the Art of the Introduction on Thursday, which, that's one of those that kind of makes me wish that I was still in the New York area, because I feel like the introduction is something that I can always be working on. And finally, our Austin chapter is having their Ladies That Lunch roundtable on Friday. So if you're in any of those areas, be sure to check those out. And of course, go to our site where you'll find plenty more events as well as plenty of virtual events. I know a lot of you have reached out saying, we love the virtual events too, and they are amazing, but we have so many that I would literally not be able to read them all, or else we would be here all day. So definitely be sure to check out ellevatenetwork.com for all of our upcoming events. And we have more added every single day. We're going to cut to Maricella's interview now with Gabrielle Gambrell. She, in addition to being our guest on the podcast, is also a history maker herself. She was the first Black woman to hold her title, as well as the youngest since the college's founding in 1889. And that title is Vice President and Head of Marketing and Communications at Barnard College of Columbia University, the most selective institution in the U.S., devoted to empowering extraordinary women. She's also an NYU and Columbia University professor, where she teaches graduate level courses in integrated marketing, digital and social media, media relations, corporate communications, and more. I can't wait to listen to this interview. It sounds amazing. But be sure to stick around after the interview, where you'll get to hear this week's History Makers. And let's go ahead and go to the interview now.
Hi, everyone. I'm here today with Gabrielle Gambrell. Gabrielle, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm doing okay. It's been a busy I know it's Monday when we're recording this, and it's been one thing after the other, so it's been a day.
Likewise, it has been a busy Monday, but I will not complain.
Yeah, busy is better than not busy, I guess.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
So, Gabrielle, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your background and how you got to doing what you're doing today?
Yes, absolutely. So, I am founder of my own marketing and PR agency, Gift of Gabrielle. I started my career, my undergraduate degrees in television, video, film, and my master's is in sports and entertainment PR. So, kind of the dream in that I was hired after my internship in college. So, started my career at ABC on Live with Regis and Kelly, which is now Live with Kelly Ripa and Ryan Seacrest, and so started the talent relations um, production route, television production, talent relations, working with celebrities, influencers. Went back to school, got my master's in entertainment and sports PR, made the pivot to CBS Corporation, where I was for 7 years, did everything in comms and PR, from the Grammys to the Super Bowl to the Country Music Awards to the US Open to launches of shows, crisis comms, elevating what we now know as the streaming world, which back then, 15 years ago, streaming wasn't what it was not
Mhm.
what it is today. Then went over to a marketing agency. Oh, before that, left CBS Corporation, went to Comcast NBC Universal, led diversity communications at Comcast NBC Universal, really coming up with a strategy, which is what I do a lot of now. I do a lot of DEI strategy, communication strategy, marketing strategy. After Comcast and NBC Universal, I left with to Interpublic Group FCB Global. I was deputy chief of comms, direct reports around the world, traveled the world. It was phenomenal.
Mhm.
Then C-suite role at Columbia University, leading marketing, leading communications. I currently teach at Columbia University and I teach at NYU. I've been teaching marketing and PR since 2009. And I love, love, love teaching. People say, "What do you do for fun?" I am inspired and so grateful to teach the next generation of leaders. Done a lot of client work, served technology companies, and here I am today.
You've done a lot.
I stay busy. I try to stay busy.
You really do, you really do. So, I wanna dive into many different things from your background and your journey, because 'cause you've gone, from corporate to, your own thing. You're in academia, so it's
Mhm.
very, very diverse kind of skill sets that you've cultivated.
Yes.
And, how do you think is there a through line, or how do you think these all came together?
That's a great question. I say my parents appropriately named me, "I've got the gift of gab." I am a storyteller. So in every single role that I've had, all the different sectors, from entertainment, from technology, from higher education. I am a storyteller. That is what I do. In marketing, I tell stories. In PR, I tell stories. So I've been able to pivot from here and there and do different things. But the core of what I do, the core of my expertise is in storytelling. I'm a storyteller. And I learned that as early on as high school. In high school, I went to Pacific Palisades High School in Los Angeles, my hometown. Very proud, Angelino. Very proud to be from Los Angeles. And in high school, I was editor in chief of the school newspaper, the Tide Line at Pacific Palisades High School. And I taught our journalism class. So, right there, I knew as a
Mhm.
16-year-old that telling stories was my thing. And I've just been able to do that on different platforms. But my expertise is all in storytelling.
And why do you think storytelling is so important?
I think it's pivotal. I teach my students that public relations is a management function in which one's success or failure is dependent upon. With good PR, you will succeed. With good communication, you will succeed. With bad communication, you will fail. So regardless of the sector, from healthcare to anything, any sector, your success is dependent upon your public relations strategy, your relationship with the public,
Mhm.
and your communication strategy.
And what makes for good storytelling?
What a good question. Authenticity, being authentic. There is a lot of noise, there's a lot of competition. And how do you get through the noise? How do you get through the
Mhm.
competition? You get through with authenticity and providing a service and a need for your target audience, for your customer, for your consumer.
Okay, so kind of knowing what they need and being able to provide something that's of value, not just say stuff.
Absolutely. Being able to add value, being able to supply a need is pivotal for success.
Yeah. So I want to circle back a little because you said you do a lot of DEI. So for people who listen to this podcast will know what DEI is, but just in case, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and you do a lot of comms and marketing strategy around this. Can you tell me a little bit about it? Because when I hear DEI and marketing, sometimes I can get a little like, "Ooh, is that are we talking like what exactly are we talking here? Are we talking about like some more performative stuff? Are we talking about reaching different people? What is really that relationship?"
Yes. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is definitely a hot topic right now. We hear it all the time and said in various ways. And it really comes down to making sure that your consumer, your community is seen and heard, that they are reflected, that you are marketing to the diversity of your potential customers. So rather you are, even let's say a professional sports team. I love the Los Angeles Lakers. And so the Lakers are not just going to market to men. They're just not
Right.
going to market to just people who love basketball, but rather people that are interested in sports, period. And we know that women are a part of that. We know there's age diversity. A lot of times when people think of diversity, equity, and inclusion, they erroneously think of race. Diversity is
Right.
not about race. Diversity is about underrepresented groups and making sure they are a part of the party and making sure that they're allowed to dance once they're at the party. So really having that inclusion element that anyone and everyone feels invited, they feel represented, they feel seen, they feel heard, and empowered.
As you're saying that, all I can think about are these horrible ads that we've seen in the past. I remember back in the day, like Carl's Jr. had these like really sexist ads, and there's a lot of that, right? So what you're trying to do is help companies not do that.
Right. We definitely don't want to offend anyone and we don't want to step into stereotypes.
Right.
One thing, because I teach at Columbia, I teach at NYU, I am grateful to work with Generation Z, the next leading consumer. And I'm grateful that Gen Z is unapologetic. Gen Zers are unapologetic about saying, you can't do that. Don't say that, or that's offensive. And so some of the advertisements that we have seen in the past, images that we've seen in the past on television, even billboards, magazines, that really won't fly today. And I do think social media has something to do with that, allowing people to speak up and have a voice to say, hey, that's offensive, or that's not truly reflective of my community. Let me tell you how my community wants to be reflected. Let me communicate what it is that I want and the desires that I'm looking for, the services that I'm looking for, how I want you to speak to me, how I should be reflected, or this is the group that I fall upon. You may think that I'm a member of this community, but I'm actually a member of that community, or this is how I actually identify. So I'm grateful for people speaking up and letting their
Mhm.
presence be known and not allowing a lot of the things in the past to fly in 2023.
Yeah, I've said it in this podcast before, and I will say it again. God bless Gen Z.
Yeah.
They give me hope.
Yes, likewise, likewise.
And it's interesting, I'd love to hear kind of what you're hearing, because you're straddling, you're doing your work as a consultant, and you're also listening to these people who are students currently, are the going to be the leaders later. Is the world really moving towards that, like, or is there still a big disconnect?
That's a great question. I think the world is moving towards being more inclusive. I think the world is moving towards having DEI in every sector now. That doesn't necessarily mean it will move at the proper speed. That doesn't
Mhm.
mean that everyone's going to be on board at the same time. And what is imperative is that whomever, regardless of how you identify or what age you are, that you are dedicated to prosperity and moving the needle. And so the larger the community that's moving the needle, the faster it'll go. But as long as there are people who are vocal, who are honest, who are transparent, who are vocal about what it is that they need and want, it's a good thing, and we'll move forward.
So really, you do think we're moving at a slow pace, maybe not the pace we want to,
Right.
but we're moving.
We are moving. We are moving. And what is imperative that we continue to move, that we continue to get better and do better is that people have to speak up, voices have to be heard, and we can't be discouraged. Unfortunately, I do see sometimes where, for whatever reasons, things may be in our way and you may feel discouraged and then you just stop. We can't do that. We cannot let things discourage us if we truly want change.
Yeah, look, you're talking, you're preaching to the choir here, because I actually, no, you're not. You're reminding me of something, because I am one of those people that gets discouraged.
Mhm.
A lot of the times when I talk to people, I'm in the space, right? So
Uh-huh.
I'm in the DIB space.
Uh-huh.
But when I talk to people who are not,
They
it
don't
makes
always
me
get
think,
it. They don't always get
right,
it.
they don't always get it. So sometimes I'm just like, "Oh, are we going to move forward with this?" But then I talk to people like you and I'm like, "Yeah, there's there's hope."
There is hope. There is hope. I promise there's hope.
And there's a bunch of us working on it in different, like, from different aspects. So that gives me hope.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So a lot of what you're telling about people raising their voices, though, I feel, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is very tied to also the storytelling aspect that we started with.
Yes. Yes. So I am intentional and I am deliberate about the type of stories I want to tell. I'm deliberate and intentional about who I partner with, who I work with. Do I believe in you as a company? Do I believe in you as a person? Do I see that authenticity factor there? Is this something that I want to be attached to or attached with? Is there something that I think is really going to make a positive impact in some way? And I will say that I am very fortunate and blessed to be at a place in my career where I can make that decision to say, yeah,
Mhm.
yay, nay, or I don't want to
Yep.
do that, or I don't think that's in line with my personal values. We know that when you're early in career, especially as a person of color, when you're earlier in your career, you don't necessarily speak up. You do what you are asked, you take on what is expected of you. And again, going back to Gen Z, a lot of them won't do that. They won't even work for a company without checking out their corporate social responsibility report. They won't take a job at a company if their website isn't up to par. But when I graduated college in the early 2000s, you just did it. You did the extra
Right.
work. You worked around the clock. I spent a lot of time on TikTok because of my students. And I see a lot of TikTok videos about the workforce in corporate America. And sometimes it's jokes and it's humor around, you want me to work past 5 o'clock? I'm not working past 5 o'clock. That's so funny, or that's so old school, or I'm not going above and beyond. It's really interesting, depending on the industry you're in, or just just the different cultures of what it is today. But I am grateful that I'm in a position in my career that I can be intentional about the work that I do. I can speak and have my voice. I can tell the stories that I want to tell. I can tell the stories that I'm passionate about and that I really believe in.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that because I do think we get confused sometimes with. So let me ask you something that was asked of me. I'm very curious what you would answer.
Mhm.
So I was doing a presentation on DEIB last week for a
Uh-huh,
client,
uh-huh,
and I, like you do it from a storytelling perspective. You're talking about authenticity.
uh
And I talk about authenticity from the people leader perspective. So, like, how do you show up as managers, et cetera, et cetera. But we're talking about the word authenticity, which I think has become very thrown around a lot.
uh-huh.
And so someone asked me, okay, so you're talking about authenticity, but how, when you know, like what you're saying, if you're early in your career, you have to abide by certain business rules or business norms, or how do you balance authenticity when it's not necessarily something expected from you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that there's ways that you can get involved, you can feed into that yearning for authenticity. So, let's say your traditional role, your regular job is not the end game. It's not what you see yourself doing long time. You just need it to pay the bills. Okay, are you doing something afterwards? Are you doing something on the weekend? What are you doing to fill that need? That need to give back, that need to make a difference, to have a footprint, to be a part of something great. Um, I never neglect the phenomenal things that come with volunteering, that come
Mhm.
with community service. I do recognize that sometimes you do things because you need to pay the bills, and hopefully you're working towards being able to pay the bills doing things that you love, but we know that's not always the case.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. If you're curious, what I answered was that authenticity is not necessarily bearing it all.
Mhm. That's a good answer.
So,
Mhm.
which I like what you're saying kind of is like you find your outlets,
Right.
find the places where you can add that value.
Absolutely.
So, I'm curious your perspective from marketing comms DI, which I'm the more I'm listening to it, the more I'm like, oh, I really like this. But your perspective on politics in the workplace.
Ooh, that's a tough
Yeah.
one. So, we're often told you don't speak about religion
Right.
and you don't speak about politics in the workplace. So, I think it is important to work for a company and to be a part of a workplace where your values are respected. Your values are respected. Um, do I love conversations about politics or religion in the workplace? No, I personally don't. I am Christian. I'm very proud of my Christian faith. If you follow me on social media, you'll get a scripture every once in a while. Hear about Jesus. You will know that my kids have cute little Easter outfits coming.
Aw.
And so that's just me, but I do that in my personal space.
Mhm.
And I try my very best to be respectful of regardless of what your religious beliefs are or whatever it is that you celebrate. And so uh, I want that same respect. And you want people to be comfortable. We know that politics is not something that makes everyone comfortable. It's interesting. Um, one of my clients had an interview with a top news publication, a top media publication that she's been wanting to be a part of for a while. So, secured the interview for her in this publication. And she was asked about um, politics. She was asked specifically about, as a Black woman, what it meant to her. Um, Living under and being American with President Barack Obama in the White House. So what was just her take on that?
Mhm.
And she said, "Oh, I don't discuss politics. And it was interesting because based on her religion, she does not it's literally a part of her religion that you do not discuss politics, you don't engage in politics. And the reporter was like really taken back and followed up with me. And I said, "Hey, I respect my client's wish
Right.
not discuss politics. This interview was not about politics. It was about Black empowerment. And I can see why you asked that question about living and under President Barack Obama's reign, and obviously first Black president, but this person just does not discuss politics." So um, I say that to say, and I give that example to say we have to respect people's boundaries. And sometimes we need to even reinforce them ourselves and remind people of what's acceptable and if something is making us uncomfortable or not. When it's not often, honestly, when I've had corporate roles that I've come across a lot of political conversations, and I've worked in news media. So working
Mm,
at NBC News, working at CBS News during presidential elections where
yeah.
you're covering the White House or you're covering politics. And even in that, people not necessarily giving their opinions. Certain publications we know and news media will cover things a certain way. This publication may be more conservative or more liberal, but I try to be respectful of people regardless of how they identify um, in terms of politics or religion. And it's not often that I really see it brought up.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was asking because I do feel like there has been a change in consumer behavior to similar like you're talking about like your company you work for should reflect your values. I do feel there has been a consumer behavior towards the companies that I buy from or that I support have to also be aligned to our values, and it's sometimes because of that I see and I wonder what is the right balance of companies being involved in political discourse or not.
Yeah, that's a good question. It makes me think of during the last presidential election, news was coming out about this company supports this candidate,
Mhm.
and that company supports that candidate. So if you don't support that candidate, you should not shop at that business. And I think that comes down to a personal preference. If
Yeah.
you are so in line with your respective candidate and you don't want to patronize a business that they're tied to, opposing candidate, that's your prerogative. You have that opportunity to make that decision. And again, that's an individual choice. And but we do see that happening. We do see companies that are impacted because senior leadership or board of directors makes a political statement or support of a candidate. We have seen it impact business. We definitely have.
Yeah, it's such an interesting world we live in where everything I feel has become even more interconnected.
Yes, it has. It has. It definitely.
So I want to switch gears a little bit because I you mentioned your client, which thank you for sharing that story. That's very interesting, to be
Mhm.
honest. I'm like, "Oh." And I love that you know, respected her answer and supported her.
Mhm.
I want to change gears a little bit to ask something that I'm sure a lot of people would be like, "You have to ask her this."
Uh-huh.
Which is what are your top tips for some of your clients when they're trying to build their personal brand?
Great question. So, content is king. Part of your personal brand, you do not have to be on every social media platform. You do not. But you need to have a go to stop where people can find fresh information about you. Maybe that's your personal website. Maybe you don't have the time to upkeep a personal website. Maybe it's your LinkedIn that you make a schedule. Okay. once a month, I'm going to update my LinkedIn on what I'm working on, what I'm passionate about. So that's 12 a year, 12 times a year, I'm going to give updates. There's a place that people can go and say, okay, they updated this last month. This is what's going on with them. Or I have a personal website where people can kind of see my work. It can serve as a portfolio. Or, hey, I really do enjoy social media. I have one social media platform that's going to be updated all the time, but content is king. The first thing people do is Google you. It is what it is.
Mhm.
Regardless of who you are, if people want to do business with you, people want to learn more about you, they're going to Google you. What is it that they see and what is it that they find? That is the number one step in personal branding, is that there needs to be an online presence that is truly reflective of who you are, and it needs to be updated.
Goes back to authenticity some ways, huh?
It does. Everything goes back to authenticity. And people really want to know when we talk about how things have changed and the narratives have changed, expectations have changed. People want to kind of make a connection with you.
Mm.
Um, that is something that in 2023, technology has really allowed people to have that expectation of you. So, what is it that you want people to know about you? What is it that you want people to learn about you? And that's a huge part of your brand. It's what people see when they look you up online.
And when you say content, I would like to clarify because
Mhm.
I've been trying to build my brand and people tell me content, content, content too.
Yes. Yes.
But there's content and there's content, right? There's like you can be writing articles, you can be doing videos, you could just be posting an update. Is the more important thing to keep things fresh and going or to spend time on creating content that is kind of heftier?
That's a really good question. It's more important that you have something that's frequent and up to date and just reflective of who you are. So maybe you're not comfortable being on camera, but you love to write. So then you should probably blog. People will read. You also need to be strategic and know that though people will read, no one likes to read. So your content should be short, concise, get to the point, and come out with another update later. Um, it needs to be authentic to who you are, but it also needs to give a little bit of substance. Don't just say, Hello, everyone. How's it going?" That's not doing anything. That's not really gonna embark a conversation. It's not really going to engage your prospective audience. So when you're thinking about the content you're creating, how are you engaging your prospective audience? What are key talking points you want people to leave with? What is it that you want people to know about you? What is it people you want people to know about your business, your brand, your services? Those are the type of questions you should be answering through the content you're creating.
So I love how this is very circular. It goes back to exactly what you were saying at the beginning about storytelling. It
Yes.
has to add value.
Absolutely. Has to add value. And what is your story? What is the story that you have to tell? What is it that you want to tell? Who are you? What is it that you do? You think of when we were children, we used to read books and do book reports in elementary school. You would read a
Yeah.
book, then you would get in front of your class and talk about that book and say what the book is about. You are now the book. What are you
Ooh.
about? People need to know who, what, where, when, why, and how about you. That is your brand.
I love that. You are the book now.
Yes, we are the book. We are the book.
Cool. So if we are doing that, so if we're putting content out there, keeping our social media up to date, how do we amplify it?
That's a good question. How do you amplify? I think that is very specific to what is your end goal.
Okay.
What is your brand? What do you want your brand to be? And that should determine how you amplify it. So it's a very personal, that's really personal. Like what is your objective? So when you figure out your objective, when you figure out what it is you're trying to amplify, right? That's real because that will differ for every person, for every company. And then you need to figure out also what you do really, really well and you amplify
Ah,
that. So I talk a lot about media because I worked in media. CBS does crime shows really well. CBS has like NCIS and
Yeah.
CSI, and NBC is a little bit has The Voice, and
Mhm.
it just what is it that you do really well, and then you hone into that, and that's what you amplify. You also perhaps can look at what's performing really well. What is your community responding to? When you get a lot of engagement, what is it that you're getting a lot of engagement on? Those will answer your questions on what is it that you amplify, what is it that people are gravitating towards? You give them more
So
of
what's
that.
almost like what's your superpower?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then with that, you go and find more outlets to share, I guess.
Not necessarily find more outlets, because I think some people erroneously think they need to be everywhere, and you try
Ooh,
to be present and then something lacks. You try to be on TikTok, you try to be on Facebook, you try to be on Instagram, you try to be on LinkedIn and your personal website, and maybe you don't have the bandwidth to be
yeah.
everywhere. So it's more impactful if you are strategic and intentional and present, and people know where to go to find you, and people know, okay, I just need to be here, or I can go find them here, and I'm gonna find up to date information. I'm gonna really learn more about the company, the brand, the person here. Now, if bandwidth isn't a concern and you have one person handling this, or if you're cross sharing content, you have one piece of content and it's the same content in multiple spaces, that's a different story. But a lot of people suffer when they try to be several
Yeah.
places and can't keep up.
That would be me.
It's a misconception that you have to be everywhere. You don't have to be everywhere, but where you are, you need to be present and you need to add value.
I like that. It makes me feel better because I would fail if I tried to be everywhere.
It's hard. It's very hard.
Well, this has been fun, Gabrielle.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate chatting with you. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Okay, Gabrielle. So, like you said, you don't have to be everywhere. You have to be in your spot and be good about that. And people should know where to find you. So, with that spirit, where can people find you?
Oh, thank you for asking. People can find me at giftofgabrielle.com. That's giftofgabrielle.com. And I am underscore giftofgab underscore on all social media platforms.
Thank you for that. I really want to follow you because now I want to see the special Easter outfits.
Yes, it's going to be so cute.
I'm sure. I have no question about it after this conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to end with our little lightning round.
Okay.
Nothing too serious. If you could time travel, where is the first place you would go?
I would go back in time to see my late grandmother. Anytime just to see her would be a
Aw,
blessing. Yeah.
I love that. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would love to know when people are lying.
That's a great one.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
'cause
hadn't
some
heard
people
that
can
one.
smile in your face and they'll be lying, like, and you believe them, and they're literally just lying.
Yeah, that's a good one. I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah.
If your house caught on fire, what's the first object you would run to save? Kids and pets and husbands are not, or partners are not allowed.
My cell phone or my computer, sadly.
Yeah, I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Most used app on your phone.
Probably photos, my children.
Aw.
Yes.
What's a skill you wish you had?
I wish I was more athletic. I don't like working out. I do it because I have to, but it would be nice if I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, I it took me a really long time to enjoy stuff, but one of my friends who's a an MMA fighter,
Uh-huh.
uh, I remember her telling me no one likes running because I was always be like, "Oh, I liked running," and she's like, "No one likes running until they like running. You just have to push through."
Yeah.
And she was right.
Thank you for that encouragement. I'm gonna push through. I'm gonna
You
keep
just have to keep
trying.
going.
Yeah.
And then your body gets addicted to the endorphins. So,
Okay, I like that encouragement. I'm gonna keep trying.
best piece of advice you've ever been given.
No one is you, and that is your superpower.
Ooh, that's so good.
Yes.
And finally, what's one thought you'd want to leave with our listeners?
One thought I would love to leave with listeners is you are powerful.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you, Gabrielle. This was fun.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that interview. I know that I did. Just such a fabulous, fabulous time. Let's get straight into our history makers. This week, we have Salma al-Majidi became Sudan's first woman football coach. Frances Paulino became the first Latina Staten Island postmaster. Raquel Ritter became the first Air Force ROTC woman to commission from Brown University. Sophia Betancourt became the first woman of color and first openly queer president of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Funa Nakayama became the first Asian woman to grace the cover of Thrasher magazine. And Sydney Starr became the first trans woman to appear as a celebrity guest on Wild and Out. Congratulations to all of our history makers. And look out, you might see some of these on the History Makers series in the future. So be sure to come back next week where Maricela will interview Cindy Mongini, who is a founding manager partner at New Skies Nation, a leadership development firm. New Skies Nation is the trusted and strategic partner of smart leaders and future-focused organizations who want to build and sustain inclusive and fired-up teams that crush their goals and win the future without burnout. We'll see you then. Ellevate Network drives real results for ambitious women trying to break through the glass ceiling and achieve success in their careers. We offer a platform full of resources and opportunities for growth, all designed to help you unlock your potential. With Ellevate support, you can take the first step toward achieving your professional goals. With a supportive community and tangible resources at your fingertips, you're only one step away from reaching your fullest potential. Join us today and take advantage of our 30-day free trial to start building the career of your dreams. Thanks so much for listening to the Ellevate podcast. If you like what you hear, you can subscribe, give us 5 stars, and share your review. You can learn all about Ellevate membership and all the great things that Ellevate Network is doing at our website, www.ellevatenetwork.com. That's ELLEVATE network.com. And special thanks to our producer, Catherine Heller. She rocks. Thanks so much, and join us next week.